Ghost of Yotei is a game that's already faced so much backlash, and we don't even have a set in stone release date for it, but now fans are even more concerned because the game's writers also worked on Dragon Age the Veilguard and Mass Effect Andromeda. Before I get into the topic, though, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, obviously, we do not know if a game is going to be good or bad until it releases, but the problems are already piling up with this game, and we have a lot to be concerned about because now we're finding out that Sucker Punch's upcoming Ghost of Yotei is already facing some serious backlash, but new details have emerged that only add fuel to the fire. Now, Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely loved it. I thought Sucker Punch did such an amazing job with it, and it highlights how amazing games can be if developers actually care enough to put a lot of time and effort into it. Look at what's going on with Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. They are being accused on literally every front of disrespecting Japanese culture, when on the flip side, Sucker Punch literally had done such a good job that the developers became ambassadors for the real island. Like, they did such an amazing job that they were praised for it by people that are actually part of the culture that they were trying to depict in this game. And because they did such an amazing job with the landscapes and the architecture and the characters and every little detail with this game, it became so many people's favorite. It became such a beloved title straight away. And that's why they rushed into creating Ghost of Yotei, because they saw an opportunity to make a lot of money off of making this a big, giant franchise. And then we heard that it was not going to be a continuation of Jin Sakai's story, which did not bother me because it was so many years later. And while I obviously would love them to, highlight Jin more, I also don't mind if they only give like one game to one character and then move on. But that means that they have to do an even better job in a sequel, because they have to make it feel like it was intentional while also being respectful to that last game and that character's story, and they need to tie it in some way, shape, or form. But when we found out that the lead actress, Erika Ishii, was a just absolute lunatic, a radical leftist who is more worried about her activism over seemingly the content that she is a part of, well, that had a lot of people worried. And now we're finding out that apparently two of the writers for this title worked on both Dragon Age the Veilguard and Mass Effect Andromeda, two of BioWare's worst games. So the controversy surrounding Yotei began with its very first trailer, where fans quickly realized that instead of continuing the story of Jin Sakai, the beloved protagonist of Tsushima, Sucker Punch had replaced him with a new female lead named Atsu. This abrupt shift in focus immediately raised red flags for gamers wary of yet another classic franchise being retooled for modern ideological messaging. The only problem that I will say with this is that it was never a classic franchise because it is newer. I still wanted them to continue Jin's story, but if they hadn't, yet they had made sure that this was a very intentional shift, and they paid homage to Jin Sakai, and they tried to respect this story, and it felt like a natural progression of things, I wouldn't have minded. There were some people initially that were very upset just because it is a female. I don't mind that, as long as, again, it makes sense and it feels like it was actually done naturally, and because they had a really cool story to tell, not just because, oh, we want a woman to be the face of this franchise now. But then we, of course, found out that Erika Ishii is the woman who is playing this character, and she is a massive activist, which, again, everybody is allowed to have their own opinions, even if I disagree with them. But if you can leave your personal politics at the door when going to work, that is what matters to me. But it seems very clear that she cannot. We will not let these terrorists shake our resolve. 2020 showed us that we will rise up and make our voices heard, despite voter suppression, facing down a white supremacist police force, risking health and safety. We hit the polls and streets to say no more, they can't stop us. Oof. Wonder how Araka Ishii's feeling now. Historically, the answer to an attempted coup is never to acknowledge its legitimacy. We will not ignore this. We will treat these thugs like the unlawful mob they are and hold accountable those responsible for this. Yeah, we see how far that went, but making matters worse in the eyes of many fans, the game's protagonist is played by this woman, a radical progressive activist known for outspoken comments on gender politics and for verbally attacking law enforcement. On top of that, Sucker Punch hired Thomas Hart as its new community manager in April 2024. Hart, formerly Insomniac Games, has openly defended Sweet Baby Inc., the controversial consulting firm known for injecting diverse identity politics into games. And just a month before joining Sucker Punch, Hart dismissed concerns over Sweet Baby Inc.'s influence. Now, there is no direct tie to this game and Sweet Baby Inc. But if they're hiring people who had worked with Sweet Baby Inc. and people who, of course, multiple people now who have defended SBI, it really looks pretty bad. But now, of course, we are finding out that yes, Courtney Woods and John Dombrow have both been hired for this game. I am so excited to announce today is my first day as senior staff writer for Sucker Punch. I can't wait to work with and learn from my incredibly talented coworkers. This is a dream come true for me. And John Dombrow now has on his LinkedIn Sucker Punch Productions, and even Endymion has been reporting on Yotei for months and recently revealed that the game was originally planned as Tsushima 2 starring Jin Sakai. However, according to his sources, Sucker Punch decided to pivot and replace Jin with Atsu, fundamentally altering the game's story and direction. Now, of course, take everything with a hefty grain of salt and be cautiously optimistic if you are excited for this game, but obviously all of this looks really bad. We are talking about a pile of problems that this game is facing, and I have absolutely no faith. I want them to create an amazing game. Of course I do. I want them to create a really fun, awesome experience that feels like a continuation and actually feels like they've put just as much time and effort into this game as the first one, but I do not have really any faith in any modern day gaming companies. As time goes on, people who worked on those original amazing games leave studios and new people like this are hired, and these just two individuals' track records are not amazing. Yes, they have been in the industry for tons and tons and tons of years. I understand that. But just because they were able to create great games 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago does not mean that they can create those amazing experiences today. Just because they worked on Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, which were really great, does not mean that we can forget the fact that they worked on titles like Andromeda and Dragon Age the Veilguard, because their most recent games are complete and utter failures, really awful experiences, and I am super sad to hear about all of this just because I do not really have a lot of faith in this game being amazing at this point in time. I mean, Veilguard was one of the worst experiences I have ever played. Mass Effect Andromeda, while I didn't think it was close to being as bad as Veilguard, it was still a pretty bad experience, and I just do not think we can sit here and say, oh, well, it's just two writers, because it's two writers, it's this lead actress who's awful, somebody who has openly defended Sweet Baby Inc. There could be that tie as well, plus a studio that has fired and hired and laid off a lot of employees, so a lot of coming and going. And at this point in time, there is another pair of reasons to be very worried about this game and what they're going to do with it and the direction they're going to take this experience narratively. And the trailer did look very pretty, but just because a game looks pretty does not mean it is going to be amazing. So of course, I'm extra worried at this point in time, and I think as we get closer to release, people are going to become more and more skeptical. And now, of course, fans are extra concerned as the game's writers also worked on very bad titles like Dragon Age the Veilguard and Mass Effect Andromeda. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.